I want us to reflect on what he brought to all of us. It's not just that he was a man of God or that he cared about making changes, but he left us a legacy of how we should be treating each other. And I think in this current world, sometimes we lose sight of that. We lose sight of the importance of each one of us. And so I hope we take this time as we're listening to the choir and hearing the readings and the prayers, that we take this time to think about how we interact with each other and how we make a difference. It took one man to make such a difference that even all these many years later, we still celebrate him, think about him, and carry on as much as we can. The wonderful legacy he left for us. So please take that time, please think about it. I'm glad you joined us, and I know that it is what mercy is all about. And I say that all the time, but it is what we're about, so let's just make sure we can carry this on. I'm going to turn this over to Sister Ann.
Thank you, Sue. Those words were just perfect as a way for us to begin. So let us pray. God of mercy, as we join together in prayer to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we know you are in our midst and you walk with us as we offer glory and praise. We gather in this marble lobby, made sacred by the healing ministry of our hospital and by all the prayers offered here. God of mercy, be with each of us as we listen to the words of Dr. King from the Birmingham jail in 1963, proclaimed by our colleagues, and the moving words of the spirituals sung by our choir. Open our hearts to the transforming and challenging call within these words, and move us to action to live out these words today. We ask this in confidence that you will lead us and walk with us, and together may we say amen. Amen.
So many is gonna shine if I hold out.
Amen. We're going to invite our readers to come. In April of 1963, there was an ongoing, active campaign to bring justice and equality for the individuals who at that time were known as the colored people of Birmingham. And one of the local leaders, the Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, and his leaders, the coalition of leadership who was giving leadership to the issues of the day, reached out to Dr. King and his colleagues at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference for help, and invited them to come down and help strategize on their next move. And during one of the most famous protests of the civil rights struggle in Birmingham, Dr. King was arrested and jailed. And as he sat alone in his jail cell, he penned a letter which was a response to a group of local white clergy who had gotten together and had published in their local newspaper that they were of the opinion that though they were in support of full citizenship and equality for their black and brown brothers and sisters, they felt that this just wasn't the right time. And they weren't going about it marching in the right way. They felt as though they should just take their time and allow justice to be won through the system of the courts. And as Dr. King pondered this group of local white ministers and their position on their actions at that time, he began to sketch the beginnings of this letter with a pencil and on the margins of the outside of a newspaper. He subsequently was given a notepad, and then he subsequently, even after that, completed the letter once he was released. But we want to share with you today excerpts from that letter and his feelings about his white brothers and sisters and how they felt at that time. So let us welcome our readers for excerpts from a letter from a Birmingham jail.
April 16, 1963. My dear fellow clergymen, while confined here in the Birmingham City Jail, I came across your recent statement calling my present activities unwise and untimely. I think I should indicate why I am here in Birmingham. Since you have been influenced by the view which argues against outsiders coming in, I am in Birmingham because injustice is here. Just as the prophets of the 8th century BC left their villages and carried their "Thus saith the Lord" far beyond the boundaries of their hometowns, and just as the Apostle Paul left his village of Tarsus and carried the gospel of Jesus Christ to the far corners of the Greco-Roman world, so am I compelled to carry the gospel of freedom beyond my own hometown. I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Anyone who lives inside the United States can never be considered an outsider anywhere within its bounds.
deplore the demonstrations, but fail to express a similar concern for the conditions that brought about the demonstration. Birmingham is probably the most thoroughly segregated city in the United States. Its ugly record of brutality is widely known. You may well ask, why direct action? Why sit-ins, marches, and so forth? Isn't negotiation a better path? You were quite right in calling for negotiation. Indeed, this is the very purpose of direct action. It is unfortunate that demonstrations are taking place in Birmingham, but it is even more unfortunate that the city's white power structure left the Negro community with no alternative.
One of the basic points in your statement is that the action that I and my associates have taken in Birmingham is untimely. Frankly, I have yet to engage in a direct action campaign that was well-timed in the view of those who have not suffered unduly from the disease of segregation. For years now, I have heard the word wait. This wait has almost always meant never. Justice too long delayed is justice denied.
When you have seen vicious mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will, and drown your sisters and brothers at whim, when you have seen hate-filled policemen curse, kick, even kill your black brothers and sisters, when you see the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothered in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait.
Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. While I'm on this teacher's journey. Well, I want Jesus, well, just to walk with me. Hold my hand, Lord, hold my hand. Hold my hand, Lord, hold my hand. Well, while I'm on this pilgrim journey, well, I want Jesus, well, just to walk with me.
You express a great deal of anxiety over our willingness to break laws. This is certainly a legitimate concern. The answer lies in the fact that there are two types of laws, just and unjust. I would be the first to advocate obeying just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. All segregation statutes are unjust because segregation distorts the soul and damages the personality. We should never forget that everything Adolf Hitler did in Germany was legal, and everything that the Hungarian freedom fighters did in Hungary was illegal. Now is the time to lift our national policy for the quicksand of racial injustice to the solid rock of human dignity.
Oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever. The yearning for freedom eventually manifests itself. You speak of our activity in Birmingham as extreme. Was not Jesus an extremist for love? Love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. And pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Was not Amos an extremist for justice? Was not Paul an extremist for Christian gospel? So the question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists will we be? Will we be extremists for hate or for love? Will we be extremists for preservation of injustice or for the extension of justice? I had hoped that the white moderate would see this need. Perhaps I was too optimistic. Perhaps I expect too much.
I came to Birmingham with the hope that the white religious leadership of this community would see the justice of our cause and with deep moral concern would serve as the channel through which our just grievances could reach the power structure. I had hoped that each of you would understand, but again, I have been disappointed. In the midst of blatant injustices inflicted upon the Negro, I have watched white churchmen stand on the sideline and mouth pious irrelevancies and sanctimonious trivialities. I've heard ministers say those are social issues with which the gospel has no real concern. I have wept over the laxity of the church.
So often, the contemporary church is a weak, ineffectual voice with an uncertain sound. Every day, I meet young people whose disappointment with the church has turned into outright disgust. We will reach the goal of freedom in Birmingham and all over the nation, because the goal of America is freedom. Abused and scorned though we may be, our destiny is tied up with America's destiny.
One day, the South will know. One day, the South will recognize its heroes. They will be the James Merediths with the noble sense of purpose that enables them to face jeering and hostile mobs, and with the agonizing loneliness that characterizes the life of the pioneer.
Hold his hand, God's unchanging hand. Hold to his hand, God's unchanging hand. Build your hopes on things eternal.
symbolizing a 72-year-old woman in Montgomery, Alabama, who rose up with a sense of dignity and with her people decided not to ride segregated buses, and who responded with the ungrammatical profundity to one who were inspired by her weariness. My feet is tired, but my soul is at rest.
Time is filled with swift transition. Not a bird unmoved can stand it. You gotta build your hopes on things eternal. Gotta hold God's unchanging hand. Hold to His hand, God's unchanging hand. Hold to His hand, God's unchanging hand. You wanna build your hopes on things eternal. Gotta hold to God's unchanging hand.
One day the South will know that when these disinherited children of God sat down at lunch counters, they were in reality standing up for what is best in the American dream.
I hope this letter finds you strong in the faith. Let us all hope that the dark clouds of racial prejudice will soon pass away, and the deep fog of misunderstanding will be lifted from our fear-drenched communities. And in some not too distant tomorrow, the radiant stars of love and brotherhood will shine over our great nation with all their scintillating beauty. Yours for the cause of peace and brotherhood, Martin Luther King, Jr.
Amen. We pray that something was said that touched you and serves as a reminder of exactly what the heart of the work that was being done at that time entailed. So often on this day, the original essence and spirit of the actual work of the day gets lost. It's very nice and it's right to do service projects. You know, a lot of people are out today painting walls, and it's just nice to be nice. But even in that particular context, what was actually going on, the essence of the work that was being done at that time can get lost. And we need to ensure that through a revisitation of readings like this and other documents and other just engagement with the actual work that these freedom fighters of the day were engaged in shall remain with us, ever present in our hearts and our minds, lest we repeat the mistakes of yesterday. So we pray that each of you are encouraged by something that you heard today, and we're going to conclude our program singing the great anthem, which has become one of the great hymns even of the church, We Shall Overcome. So won't you sing it?
We shall overcome.
everything that happens to make this time special. For days like this, when we have emergencies like broken legs and so forth, to continue to carry on. So thank you, and many blessings to each of you. And if I forgot somebody, I'm sorry, but we're all very grateful. Thank you.